Morning, everybody. Welcome to Chassidus in the morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. Aleph, Parshas Bay. Okay, basically what we're going to do is today we're going to learn. There's a small sikha, and then tomorrow we're going to do a whole nother sikha about Bittul and about Yetzias Mitzrayim. A lot of interesting fundamental ideas. So today's sikha, it's going to continue on in the same theme we've been discussing about Mesiras Nefesh, and also the idea of how everything we learn in the Torah is not just like something that happened or history or something like this, but it's practical and relevant, and it's there for all places and all people in all times. Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to get into something about the Yud Shvat that's coming up. Parshas Bay. The Parshas Shavuot, Mesapers the Torah. In this week's Parsha, the Torah tells us, "Shakadosh Baruch Hu tziva lakach seh b'yom ha'asiri l'chodesh Nisan." Hashem commands Jewish people should take on the 10th day of the month of Nisan a sheep. To keep in the house for a few days. And on the 14th, the shachter, to la kriva, the carbon Pesach, bring the carbon Pesach. So this is like one of the first mitzvahs the Yidden are given. And it's a pretty wild idea, which we're going to discuss. Because the sheep were the Avodah Zarah of the Mitzrayim. So you're telling the Yidden, they've been oppressed for so many years, and they're slaves. And they get told, hey, take this sheep, with Avodah Zarah, put it in your house, and then you go shecht it. Now, if you told anyone nowadays, let's say, take someone's Avodah Zarah and do this thing, people would be pretty scared. It's a pretty scary idea. And they didn't do it. And everything, and it's a miracle, one of the many miracles that happen, that nothing happens to them. So let's see what's going on over here. So why do you have to take it on the 10th day? Amar Chazal, so the rabbis explain, in order, yiru bereshus b'nei Yisrael, es hakvasim bishalud So the question that we're asking is, why does Hashem say you have to take it on the 10th day and on the 14th shechted? Just say shechted on the 14th. Why do we say take it on the 10th day? So there's different answers given, and this is the specific answer we're giving. One of the answers that the rabbis give is because they want to keep it there so the mitzvah will see it. They will see it, and then they'll say, hey, what's going on over here? They'll ask them, why are you holding this sheep? La yispalu, and the Yidden won't be affected, won't be scared, won't be afraid. And what will they do? V'yanu, they'll answer. We're holding it, we're keeping it. But bias, today, l'shachtim, l'kiv l'carbon, not the shecht and bring the carbon. Yeah. So what are you doing with my Avodah Zarah over there? No, we're just keeping it a few days. In a few days, we're going to shecht your Avodah Zarah and we're going to eat it. It's going to be yummy. It's a pretty wild thing to do. So Mitzrim, Abdullah says, so the Mitzrim, they bowed down. They served the sheep. So what's interesting is that in this past parsha, there's a whole discussion that Moshe wants to go and bring carbon, and Paro is suffering with all the makkos, and he goes, you know what? You need to do your karbanos, do your karban, but do it here. So Moshe says to Paro, we're gonna shecht the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim, and they're not gonna go stone us. What are you, crazy? We're going to do it over here? We have to leave. It's too dangerous over here. You take that Avodah Zarah of the country and you shecht it and nothing's going to happen to me. And here we see the Yidden are doing, all the Yidden are doing it. The Bechal says, and therefore, we hear Hashem command Jewish people to keep in your house for 4 days. And when they question the Mitzrim about it, you answer them. Our want is to shecht your Avodah Zarah and bring it to Hashem. That's what Hashem wants us to do. A wild situation going on over here. And also, it's a very impressive what the Yidden were doing, did. So Mesiras Nefesh Shahayu Az of Bnei Yisrael, the strength and the children of the Yidden had the biltil his rashim. Not to get affected, not to be worried about the people around them. Hevias a gula. So that brought us the gula. In last week's parasha, we talked about the gula of how to get out of galus. It's through the gula and it's through the makkos and things like this. And now we're talking about another version of gula. Okafish, Amar Azal. So the rabbis say that one of the reasons why we had all this mitzvah and eating matzah and all these things was because the Yidden were bare of mitzvahs. They were in galus for so long, they weren't doing many mitzvahs. So Hashem gave us the mitzvahs. Because like it says, V'es arum v'area. Halu oivdei avodah zara v'halu oivdei avodah zara. These guys are avodah zara and these guys are avodah zara. One of the things we say is that, like, what's the special? You got free to get out of Mitzrayim. They did avodah zara, and the Mitzrayim did avodah zara. We were in a very bad state, so we have this. So one of the opportunities Hashem was giving us to get out of this bad state and make us worthy of Mitzrayim was this whole story with the sheep. Hashem gives the mitzvah to carbon Pesach. Hashem gives the mitzvah carbon Pesach. And because of the Mesiras Nefesh, not just we did Korban Pesach, but it was such a Mesiras Nefesh with the Korban Pesach, they got the Mitzrayim. That helped us be redeemed from Mitzrayim. So we see the Korban Pesach and the tent and waiting the few days, having it at home. It was a very big show of Jewish pride and steadfast commitment to Hashem and to His Torah mitzvahs. So that's sort of the story. Now we have to apply it to ourselves. Base Nemar, it says, like the days that I took you out of Egypt, I'll show you miracles. Meaning Mashiach is going to be like the times that we left Egypt. Kalema meaning Agalus, Mitzrayim, Sameles, Mashal, Hagulas, Mitzrayim, Sameles, the Geula Hasida. The Geula of Mitzrayim is synonymous and symbolizes together the Geula of Mashiach. And being that's a mashal of Torah, so move on. It's understood. Being that we're saying that the mashal that the Yitzias Mitzrayim shows us on what's it going to be like when we have Yitzias Migalus. So too, what happened in Mitzrayim and how we got out of that Mitzrayim is the same way we're going to get out of our Mitzrayim and our Geula. How you do when a mashal of Torah maasim partei hamashal v'nimsham. All the parts of the mashal shows on the nimshal. Meaning, sometimes you give a parable to explain an idea. Meaning, there's an idea we want to understand, but we can't understand it. So we give a parable that we can't understand. Now, generally, when we give the parable, there's always going to be 100% because it's two separate things. What I was saying is, in the Torah, when there's a parable, so what's it trying to explain? It's exactly they work together very well. Just like Mesiras Nefesh came with the strength, this Mesiras Nefesh that we had. Just like we see here in this story, the Yidden had Mesiras Nefesh, and this Mesiras Nefesh what caused them to how to get out of Galus. So too, what it's teaching us is that when we have the Mesiras Nefesh, we're given over to the cause, and we push ourselves, sometimes even above our comfort zone, to do what's needed of us. That helps us. Now, just to clarify this, Mesiras Nefesh that we normally think about, let's say, is in the times of Rasha. Hasidim in Rasha, that Mesiras Nefesh in the kids of Jewish schools, Mesiras Nefesh of Torah mitzvahs, and that's what the Mesiras Nefesh is, self-sacrifice in that sense. But the Mesiras Nefesh of today is not the same. We don't have generally that type of level of commitment required. Mesiras Nefesh is more Mesiras Haratzon, that our wants and our desires we put aside to what's right, and we work on ourselves to do what's right, and that's the Mesiras Nefesh we're talking about. And so the Rebbe is going to explain it in the Inyan of Avos Yisrael. But the idea is that we have Mesiras Nefesh, and we realize that we have to understand how this Mesiras Nefesh applies to ourselves. But the point that we're saying is that through us having Mesiras Nefesh, when we make that choice, we have to realize it's just like the Yidden had the Mesiras Nefesh with holding the sheep. And then when the Mitzvah came and asked them, what are you doing? Explain to them. You could say the Mesiras Nefesh today is the same idea, that we do Torah mitzvahs proudly. And when you're sitting there and a guy asks you, what are you doing? Or you say, you don't work on Shabbos, let's say, or whatever it is in your workplace or down the street, you have to dress proudly, you have to act proudly. And someone asks you a question, you unabashedly explain what you're doing. That's sort of the Mesiras Nefesh you're talking about. It's a gimel. Now we're going to explain. The Rebbe is going to explain it in terms of obviously Yisrael. I'm going to explain an interesting idea, and it's something we have to bring about and think about and see how we can apply it to ourselves. Gimel. Im kol mitzvah is ish kiyum teikif. With all mitzvahs has like this special strength when you fulfill it. Kol shekain shes a mitzvah obviously Yisrael. So for sure obviously Yisrael, which is Yesod Klal Torah, which is the foundation of the whole Torah. Yesh lekayim teikif. You have to fill with strength. I'm not to get afraid or embarrassed or worried about anyone. Having obviously so. So that was going to explain obviously so. Now, we have to put this in context a little bit. This sikha was said in Tafshin Yud Beis, 1952. In 1952, one of the biggest challenges was Yiddishkeit. It's like my wife was reading a book, and these Chassidim that came from Russia, that they survived Russia, and they finally came to America. They got resettled with like these American Jewish groups to help them. And when the guy came into his new living quarters that they had organized for him, he had a bid, of course, as a Chabad Chassid. And the guy that helped him have the place grabbed him by the beard, shoved him to the corner. He said, "We're in America here. We don't have such things." And so this is the time period we're talking about over here. That Yiddishkeit was suffering in a lot of ways, and the people that weren't religious were trying to not stick out as much, and the religious people were trying to hide themselves because it was very uncomfortable. And so this is what the Rebbe is talking about. So then when we learn what we learn, we understand the context, and then we have to see how we can apply this to ourselves in that situation. How does that fit into us? Let's see. Yesh l'seichech im Yehudi al Torah mitzvahs. The Rebbe says you've talked to Yidden about Torah mitzvahs. So you imagine you're going down the street in those days. We're going to put it into the context of that time period, and then we're going to apply it to ourselves. So you're going through that time period. You're sitting there with another Yid. You see, everyone was Jewish, especially let's say in Crown Heights. The whole place was full of Jews. You see another Yid. You know he's Jewish. He speaks in Yiddish, but he doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. So you have to talk to him about Torah mitzvahs. And then you're going to speak about Torah mitzvahs. You're going to come and say, "Hey, I learned this beautiful shiur about having Mesiras Nefesh." The guy looks at you. The lady looks at you. You say, talking about Shabbos candles, and they look at you like, "Stop! Like I'm finished. Like we're done. It's not cool anymore. These things we left that in the old country, and we're in a new country, and we're trying to fit in. Don't embarrass me about this Jewish stuff." The Rebbe says even if they bayat means kick, like an animal he kicks. So they kick you. They're like, "Get out of here! Leave me alone." Ein l'srashim. Don't worry about it. Don't get too affected. Adav, on the contrary. Ha'uvda shehala bayat, the fact that that the person is kicking, this is the proof that it's bothering him, it affects him. It's like they say, the famous thing, only finish paragraph, we'll talk about it. Yesh, therefore there is l'daber itzoi, to speak to them shuv again and again. Keep on going, keep on bugging them. We're gonna, of course, this is the caveat of being in a nice way, and we're gonna talk about this. Yiklap, and I've still said they grasp it. The point he's saying is, that the fact that they get affected, it's like I talked about this in last week, I think it was last week's Sikha, that the Wagner from UCLA, one of the people that became like one of the presidents of the students, was a girl that came to his class. The first time she wanted to come to the class, because she disagreed with him because he's a religious rabbi, and so for sure he's backwards. And I'm coming to argue, and ended off they discussed it, and she's part of the Chabad. So what happened? What they were saying is, when the fact that she's coming to kick, it's because there's something there. There's passion, there's fire. That means you're affecting. So you keep on going, you'll get it, and they'll realize, hey, I'm not against this. I'm a Yid, and I'm proud to be a Yid, and this is all fits in. It makes sense with my Yiddishkeit to these things, and that's what we're saying. They were saying the fact they don't, it's like when you go and say, and someone like, they ignore you, they look at you, they don't want to look at you, and they're expecting. I heard once they did this thing. I don't know if it was Chabad.org, that they got some people that aren't religious. They live in New York, they've had the experience of a Miftayim, and they said they wanted to try it themselves and see what it's like. See what it's like to be on the other end of it. And one thing they said it's such a like intense, powerful question when someone comes and they say, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" You have to imagine a person's walking, person is a Yid, and they're walking on Manhattan. They're living their lives, have no connection to Yiddishkeit, nothing. And then some random guy with a hat and jacket comes to you and he says, "Hey, are you Jewish?" And you're like, "Whoa." It's like, that's a heavy question. And so even if they don't answer you, they walk off and they say, "Hey, yeah, I'm Jewish. Why did you ask this question?" Like, what, don't look Jewish? What am I not doing Jewish? I'm not being Jewishly enough. And it like it mixes around in the head and things, and it changes things. It's like a famous story that had just been circling around these recently, that a guy asked someone that had used to grew up from, and he left the path of Yiddishkeit, unfortunately. And he asked him, "Because you're going to put tefillin?" He said, No. But it affected him so much, he said, from that day on, I started putting on tefillin. So the guy that asked him to put on tefillin, he felt he didn't get anything. He didn't manage. Meanwhile, he changed this guy's life for that question. So that's what the Rebbe is saying here. That when you speak to them about Torah mitzvahs, it doesn't mean you have to come and shove it down their throats and be annoying about it. That's all we're saying. We're going to discuss it tomorrow. We'll finish up the sikha. I'm not saying about being annoying about it, but all we're saying is you have to be living Yiddishkeit. And then when you see another Yid, you want to share with them that passion of Yiddishkeit. You want to speak to them about it. Hey, I want this beautiful idea. And that affects. And even the person's like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it." So you don't come and bash them over it, but you keep on trying in different ways. Again, with your passion and with your excitement, and that will have an effect. And that's what I was saying. Even when they start to push you away, it means that they care. You're affecting. And ultimately, as we're going to say tomorrow, it's b'dach enem, b'dach shalom, in a very peaceful way. To be continued tomorrow.